Hello everyone and welcome to this week's episode of the Ratliff Mandolins weekly production diary. If you're wondering what I'm doing here, I'm cleaning up a couple of old tools that wandered in here. Saturday the phone rang and it turned out to be a local antique dealer kind of guy, a friend of mine, and he come by and said, we were talking about coping saws the other day and I wanted you to have this. And he gave me this coping saw, very unique thing. I'll try to get a close-up of it. Very unique design right in the attachment points. And it actually says the patent date on it is 1908. And he didn't want a dime. He just said, here, you can have it. And you can have these right here too. And they're little handles with tightening collars on them that, as it turns out, I think will be just a perfect fit for some needle files. And so we're going to get those cleaned up just a little bit real quick before we start official work. And as far as official work goes this week, we're wanting to finish as much of the repairs as we possibly can. We've still got this thing that we glued the fretboard on last week. And then we have the mandolin that needs to have the patch in the top, which will be a very difficult and very interesting repair. And we have one guitar to adjust the action on, and that'll be pretty quick and simple. And that's what we've got to do before we can start on the next batch of mandolins. And that's what I'm wanting to do, is get this stuff as much glued up and out of the way as possible, and then we can go in there and start on the next batch of mandolins this week. So we'll get started right here with this one. We're going to put frets in this thing and get it playable and get it ready to go out of here. And so this mandolin is repaired and ready to go to its owner. And the next thing we're going to do is start on this mandolin here. Has a little issue with the top caving right in here, and I'll explain all that as soon as I put this back in the case. Now I'm going to describe to you a problem or an issue that an awful lot of mandolins, carved-topped instruments have, and that is with this area right here. Lots of times you'll find that there will be a slight caving in this area right here due to the fact that this is where the tailpiece and the string tension is at it does its business, and this business just kind of buckles up right in here. And I think the reason that an awful lot of this happens, and let's just take a look at a rough top here, is that these things are tapered in thickness. The thickest part being right here, the thinnest part being in a horseshoe area right here, and then they flare back out to the thickness of the binding on the edges. A lot of guys carve this horseshoe in here, and I used to do the same thing. The thinnest area would be right around in here. But then I noticed over the years of working on not only my instruments, but older instruments from the bigger manufacturers, and seeing the same problem over and over again, that you will see a little bit of a collapse right in this area right here. I started carving mine years ago, after this mandolin was made, obviously, but years ago, where my thin spots come around here, not in an entire horseshoe, and thicken back up just a little bit right in here, thin back out. So it's sort of it's still in a horseshoe, but there's more wood here than normal if you would cut it all the way down to the specks all the way around here. So ever since I've started carving tops this way, I've not had any of these collapse issues. So, but like I said, this mandolin was made back in '97, and this was kind of before I clued into, I think I can stop this problem by carving just a little bit different, leaving a little more meat right in here. So we're here to fix this issue. And I tell people when they're buying, people that call me and ask for advice on buying mandolins, whether it's mine or anybody else's, I always tell them the first thing you need to do is just turn it up there and look under the tailpiece and see if it looks right, because that will be one of the issues. But it's a complicated repair, but it's not undoable, and I will explain what we're going to do. We're going to put a patch underneath this top. We're going to go through the sound hole and put a patch here, pretty decent sized patch, probably something in the range of this size right here, because it's the backing plate that I used to do that with, and tighten everything up. Now I'll explain the interesting way that we're going to do that. I'll draw you a picture even. We're going to take a cross section of this top, and my drawing abilities are limited, but we'll get the idea across. Let's just say we have the top coming down like this, and here's the sides, and here's the back. Okay, and we have a crack right here that we want to fix in this area right here, and we want to put a patch on that. How are we going to do that inside this mandolin in here? Now, this plate, we're going to take a plate, and there's different, I've got plates of different shapes, and I'll just use this one. This one would fit in here, and we'll make a drawing of this plate. This plate is not a permanent thing. This plate is only here to spread the clamping pressure. And we have a little contraption like this right here, which is an L-shaped piece of wood with a hole drilled in it right there, and a guitar key put on it, so that the string will go through this hole and get tied to that guitar key. And we can tighten it up. I hope that makes sense. You see, just like that right there. So we can tighten this guitar key up and pull on this string. We're going to drill holes in the appropriate spots right down through the patch, the plate, and the top. Little ball end of the string. This contraption on top, so we can pull that string up. An exploded view would be my little L-shaped thing up here, the patch, the plate, the backing plate, and the string going through the whole mess with the ball end on the string. All that, this tuning key here will take up the tension and pull everything together. and we'll have our patch glued. I actually have one of these things that I have made specifically for this job on the mandolin, with the plates and everything, a double one. And what we're going to do is go right down through one side of this crack, and the other side we're going to smear glue down in the crack. We're going to put a backing plate on it. This thing is actually curved more or less into this, where this flow should be, just like that right there. Tighten everything up. Everything will, and here's the complicated part, is all of this stuff has to feed down through the sound hole. We're going to put the strings in these holes, feed them out of the sound hole, put the patch on, put the backing plates on, smear glue, feed everything back down in that sound hole, pull it all up, tighten it up, and then of course we have to worry about taking it all back apart and the glue squeeze out and everything later as well. So it's a rather complicated repair. You kind of feel like a surgeon after you're done with it, but that's the repair. That's what we're going to do. So ride with me and I'll try to shoot some footage of it as we do it. Okay, so here's the setup. Here's the actual patch. We need to spread glue here, feed it down in the hole. Here's the backing pad and this little extra bar to help keep everything straight. Feed it all into the hole, one piece at a time. And then we're going to go right over here. And feed these strings here up through these holes into these. Pull everything as tight as we possibly can, and then use these things to just tighten it right on down and sandwich everything in with this patch here in between. And then after it dries, we can take everything apart. That's the general idea. Okay, that's about all I know to do. Hope it works. We're in there, we're pulled up, the patch is pulled up good and tight to the top, and that should do the trick. That's all I can do anyway. Well, right off the bat, it looks like we've had a great deal of success. Well, I think we have done what we set out to do. I have a nice, solid, playable mandolin, and I can call this fella and tell him he can pick his mandolin up. Now we're going to do that guitar real quick that needs to have the action adjusted. And I think word must be getting around town that I'm doing repair work, because I had somebody bring me a mandolin yesterday that has a broken bridge top. So I'm going to try to replace that bridge top for that fella. And if I can do those two things before anybody brings anything else in here, I'm completely done with the repair work, and we can move on to the next batch of mandolins. So that's where we're at right at the moment. Okay, we have an HD 28 here. I have adjusted the action here at the nut and at the saddle, and I've dressed about 7 or 8 frets on it and cleaned them up real pretty. And I think we're about done. Okay, here's what we're going to have to fix on the mandolin that came in here yesterday. It's another more or less home built one. It's built by a fellow that lives about 20 or 25 miles up the road, and a local musician had bought the thing and played it for years and years, but he said it started getting hard to tune, and then the next time he took it out of the case, the bridge was broke. So we're going to replace it with just a regular ebony bridge, or at least a bridge top is what he wants, but we'll see. We'll either make it a bridge or a bridge top. So a new bridge top there, and that mandolin is good to go and perfectly functional, and that officially finishes all of the repairs that I had built up in between the batches. So tomorrow, it's pretty late in the day today, but tomorrow morning, first thing, we can officially start the next batch of mandolins. And what we'll be doing will be pulling down the numbered boxes and gathering the wood and choosing the wood, this wood for this mandolin and that wood for that mandolin and all that sort of stuff. So I'll carry the camera with me tomorrow, and we will officially get the next batch started. See you then. Okay, today is the big day. We get to start on the next batch. Let me take a few minutes here to explain to you exactly what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And we'll start with why I'm doing this whole video series. Across the course of the last 40 years, I've heard so many horror stories about folks that have custom ordered an instrument, and I hear they'll say, do you know so-and-so or this builder or that builder? And I say, yeah. And he asked for half up front, or he wanted a deposit of X amount of dollars or something. That's been 3 years ago, and now I can't get the guy to even return a phone call. Well, I kind of decided early on that I really wanted to be very accessible. I didn't want anything like that to be associated with my name. So I believe in strong communications between me and my customer. And so I always try to return phone calls or emails and stuff like that, although I'm not the best in the world with the email programs, but nevertheless, I try to be accessible and always where somebody's not worried about the fact that I've asked for their money to hold a spot in my production line. So after a while, you kind of get to the point of where folks would call and they would say, well, have you started my mandolin yet? I'm 35 behind, 35, 38, something like that behind. So you order a mandolin today, it might be 2 years before I can start on it, you know, and so folks would call and say, well, have you started it yet? Well, no, I haven't, and he'll call me back next year. It wasn't the best of things to happen, and so I started fishing around for a way to stay in touch with folks, you know, and that's basically how this video series started. This whole weekly production video series started was I would tell people, you know, here's what I do this week, you know, and you can watch it, and if I'm working on your mandolin, then you get to watch me build your mandolin. So right off the bat, we numbered them. I built in batches of 10, so we'd number them. I'd tell them, well, you're number 1 or number 7 in this batch. So anytime I'm working on number 7, that's your mandolin. And then about 4 batches ago, I had so many mandolins on back order that I actually decided to letter number the batches. So we had batch A and batch B and C, and this one here is going to be batch D. And so in the next 2 or 3 weeks, or the next week probably at some point or another, I'm going to contact all of these folks that are on this batch, and I'll say, okay, I've started the batch, and you're going to be D5. So anytime you see me working on 5 in the next little bit, it'll be your mandolin. So that's how that's going to work. Now, I have obviously 10 customers here, and the boxes are laid out here so that I can assemble material. And if you'll recall, if you're a regular watcher of the series, that there are a few extra mandolins left over from last batch, because I always try to make more than what I absolutely have to have, 1 or 2 on hand, just in case we drop one or break one or somebody changes an order or something. So today we're going to be assembling materials, and then we'll also be going through the mandolins that I have just on the shelf in pieces and parts that are completed or partially completed. And if something actually matches up with one of the things that's ordered, then we'll have a head start on that mandolin as well. So briefly, we're going to do 10 mandolins. We have an mandolin number 1 is going to be an A-style master model. It's going to a local fella here. Number 2 is a fellow that's also in Tennessee, but he's way over close enough to North Carolina border. I think he was telling me that he could see it, or it was right outside his back door or something like that. So he's way over in the mountains. Number 3 is going to be an F-style country boy as well, and it will be going to a fellow in Tennessee. Number 4 is going to a guy in Washington, and it's going to be an F-style. Right now, the work order says it's going to be an F-style with an A-style neck on it. Number 5 is going to be an F-style country boy. In fact, everything from here on out, I think, is going to be an F-style country boy, going to a fellow in New York. Number 6 is going to a fellow in Texas, and it's going to have an unusual pearl pattern. It's going to be kind of a fun project. Number 7 and number 8 will be going to a pair of ladies in California. We're going to try to make those out of the same boards, just as close together. My idea is to make them so that you can hold them both up and you can't really tell which one is which. We want to make it as close as we can, 2 sister mandolins. That's the goal, my goal anyway. Number 9 is going to Missouri, and number 10 will be another F-style country boy going to Florida. So that's what we're going to do. Follow me. I'm going to First thing I'm going to do is go over there to the extra mandolin box and just see what we have, and maybe if we've got something that will fit right down in one of these boxes, and we'll have a head start on that mandolin anyway. Okay, I got two mandolins here that I think will be perfectly acceptable for mandolins 9 and 10. So we've got a good head start on the batch already. I'm going to go back over there and see what I might have in the way of necks that are already made up that might fit one of these mandolins here. And after comparing all of the pre-made stuff to my notes, I think I've come up with 4 necks that I'm good with. Really nice curly maple 2 A-style necks, so that'll be mandolin number 1 and mandolin number 4 right here, and that will be the one that's an F-style with an A-style neck. And then I think these will be perfectly good necks for mandolin numbers 5 and 6. So we'll put these necks in their respective boxes and move on. And now I'll go upstairs into the wood room and see what I've got in the way of tops and backs. We are now in the wood room upstairs at the shop, which is a room that we're seldom in, that you guys seldom get a chance to see. There's wood stacked up in racks all down behind the camera on that wall. And right here I have some curly maple laid out and a box, some milk crates full of stuff. These two right here are pieces of top wood that have already been joined together. They're ready to profile out and start carving. It's red spruce, and that's what we're going to be using for every mandolin in this batch, I think. And then this middle box looks like it's some maple back halves that are put together, and we'll take a look at them to see if anything suits me for this batch. And if not, we'll probably carry this board down, which is a very curly board, and cut it up and make backs out of it. So let's get to it. Well, that's the 10 tops, so let's carry them downstairs first. So, although we only need 8 tops, I brought down 10. We'll carve out 2 extra just in case. I brought down the big maple board, 1 smaller board, and then I brought these single piece cutouts. I can split these down the middle and get 4 single piece tops, and I'm pretty sure backs, and I'm pretty sure that these came out of one end of this board. So I'm going to cut those up, probably sand one clean and stain it, and then call the folks that these mandolins are for and ask them if either of these, if they had their choice, which pieces of wood would they like to have. So that'll be probably what we're going to be doing for the rest of the day, is sawing, sanding, and prepping. Okay, I've taken one of these solid backs and sanded it clean. So that's about the finish that we're going to have after the back is carved. And I have some medium brown and dark brown. And we're going to rub the browns on here and see just how much the curl shows out. I'm going to take this over here in the sunlight so we can see it real well. And I'm going to wipe it with water because it's It's kind of what's going to happen when the lacquer hits it. So, shows the curl really well. Wow. Yeah, that's a pretty piece of wood. Well, that's about what it'll look like in real life. And of course, the colors will change if we put a sunburst or whatever, but that's about how well the curl is going to pop in that wood. So as you can see, this is a beautiful piece of wood. Now, I will have to say that how intense that curl is has got a lot to do with how it's cut out of the log. And usually if you've got any kind of up and down growth rings right through here, then the curl is really intense. But if you've got a board, and this is one of them, where you can still see the round in the tree by looking here, if you ever get the flat part of the growth rings, then the intensity of that curl kind of slacks off. And I noticed for this one right here on this treble side, the intensity slacked off a little bit. You can go back and look at those pictures if you want to. It's not bad, but it's there. So that's the curse of a single piece back, is that usually you have some spot in there that a trained eye could actually tell how it come out of the log. So that's the choices here that we have laid out. Is this board single piece? I can make 4 single piece backs out of it. Now, like I said earlier, these chunks of wood come out of this board when it was longer, and so you can minimize that weaker spot in the curl by splitting them open like that, so you have an equal part on the inside, and then as it comes out, whatever the intensities will be equal on either side, and you won't really notice them. So we're going to make our choices between single piece backs or double piece backs, basically out of the same board. I bought 3 boards the other day with the idea that I would make matching necks and sides out of them for this batch. The curl pretty much matches on all of these boards. So we have some really curly wood that really, no matter what we choose, is going to match and be a very nice instrument wood. Okay, so while we're talking about stains and that sort of thing, and seeing as how we're going to be making some choices on how to cut the boards and how to use them, let's discuss quarter sawn and flat sawn and how that affects stain. So let's just say that we're looking at a log here, just at the end of it, you see. And as a general rule, you're going to have growth rings in that log, you see. Now, the board can be cut here out of the log, and I'll kind of go all the way back through there like that, you see. Now, these growth rings in this board will be more or less straight up and down. Now, if we take another board exactly the same size, cut from here, you see, then these growth rings are going to be this way, right? So this is quarter sawn, this is flat sawn. Now let's just say that you have one kind of here. Then these growth rings are going to be this way. So those are your 3 choices basically, and I have no idea what that's called. It's slant sawn or something. It doesn't really matter what it's called. It's, you get the idea. Now, to get a board this wide, you just about most of the time see them come from this section of the log. And this one is exactly the same way. And you can see right here that
It's tilted just a little bit, but it's flat right in this area right here because of the curve of the way the tree grew. It's flat right in here. So the stain will take really, it don't take any better or worse, but it takes differently. If it's a slab sawn board, usually the curl in a maple log won't jump out as strong as it does in a quarter sawn board. It can still be very pretty, as you've seen in this one right here, but where this one here gets really flat right in here, it just kind of weakens up a little bit. If you go back and look at that bit just a minute ago, I don't even think you can tell it. It just kind of eases off a little bit. Now, the big wide board that we've got right there, big wide one, it does this. It was cut out of the log this way. You see? So that's how that one was cut out of the log. So that's what you have in this board. You have like that. Now that's okay, because when you cut, let's do this upside down. No, we were right to begin with. So when let's say you want to make a half of a mandolin back out of this, you want this mandolin back to come out right here. That's the half. So what I normally do is I'll cut this board right down the middle, bring these two pieces like this, and I will have one board that goes like this, like that, and one board that will go like that, which is perfect for mandolin tonal reasons. And we'll cut this back out here that'll be shaped like this. So if you're one of those guys that thinks that the wood has to be even from one side to the other, but for the sound to travel evenly, then that's probably true, and that's not a bad choice for you to build your mandolin with boards that are cut that way. The advantage of a single piece back is there's never a glue joint there. There's no glue joint there that can never come apart, never give you an issue. The good part here is that it's even more, and your curl usually is equally intense going one direction as the other. And if it does happen to get weak or something here, because maybe this turns more, maybe it's done like that, then that weakness will be evenly on both sides. So there's your choices. Either one will make a great mandolin back. You know what, folks, it's been a busy week and I have shot a lot of footage, and I suspect that this video is going to be as long or longer than anything I've posted up till now. It's Friday afternoon, so I'm going to go ahead and call it quits on this video and invite you to come back next week for the next episode of the Ratliff Mandolins Weekly Production Diary. And we'll be, of course, continuing to prepare wood, choose wood, gather wood, and we'll try our best to start bending sides next week and maybe start carving tops and that sort of thing. And I certainly, like I said earlier, I certainly hope you'll come back and visit us then on the next episode. So see you then.